Oh, alright. Stream. Where is stream? Race Spec channel. There it is though. So stream's up. There it is though. Birds are so loud outside you can hear them. Stream's up, cat's up. Audio is working as it should, that's good. I only have a couple of minutes to wait. This, I think, is everybody looking at the attendance sheet. Don't have a lot for tonight. Shame, but it happens. We got a lot more racing tonight. Seems that Liquito is competing, even though he's checked in as no. That's alright. The more the merrier. Rightio, we shouldn't be too far away now from the ready up signal being given. Once it is, we'll get on the way. Alright, I think the command has been given, let's go. Get this show on the road as my neighbour's dog is barking its head off. It does this every day. Cute little pupper, but by God, he doesn't shut up. There's a timer. As soon as that hits 0, start up the intro as per normal. Oh, I got a friend request. I suppose I could accept that. Can I accept that? I can. Come on, gang! Thank you. Hello everyone and welcome to round 10 of the America's Tier 1 Championship here on Race Spec Esports. I'm Everingham, your commentator for this event, and for tonight we'll be competing at Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez for the Mexican Grand Prix. Constructed in 1959, Mexico City first hosted a Formula One Grand Prix all the way back in 1962, and periodically held Grand Prix all the way up to 1992. The circuit would disappear from the calendar and would take over 2 decades for it to return in 2015 with an updated design. The modern circuit measures up at 2.67 miles, consists of 17 corners and 3 DRS zones that lead into the prime overtaking spots of Turn 1, Turn 4 and Turn 12. The circuit features long straights, high-speed sweepers and tight twisty technical sections. As a result, a car's setup needs to be well balanced to accommodate the wide variety of features. The most noteworthy of which is the high-speed S's, formed by turns 7 through 11. It's without a doubt one of the toughest S sections in the world of Formula 1 and will prove to be the main hotspot for track limit warnings during both qualifying and in the race. Hopefully, with this in mind, qualifying will be extremely competitive once again. It has been for several races in a row here in the America's Tier 1 Championship. But before we focus on qualifying, there is a little bit of news to go through first, and a little change I need to make that I forgot to make before the stream because I'm stupid. There we go. Change it over to miles an hour. So, in terms of news, there were no incident reports submitted by the drivers last week. As a result, the final positions from that race remain completely unchanged. In the Drivers' Championship, it is Axis who was leading the way on 208 points, but after Blockman's win in Budapest, the lead that he had has been cut down significantly. Blockman in P2 is on 196 points. He is 12 behind Axis, so fight at the top. It's properly on now heading into this round in Mexico. Saucy completes the top 3 on 162 points, followed by KD, who was absent for today's race. He's on 147. Rebel rounds out the top 5 on 137 points. In the Teams Championship, Alpine are leading the way, and they've got a massive margin at the top of the board. They're on 333 points. AlphaTauri are in second on 220. It's a 113-point margin between the top two in the Teams Championship. Red Bull aren't terribly far behind AlphaTauri. They're on 206, followed by Williams on 184, and then Ferrari rounding out the top 5 on 147 points. Captain Schmeg will be the first driver to attempt a flying lap in this qualifying session. We're going to ride on board with the Haas driver, give you a tour of this 2.67 mile racetrack here in Mexico City. Down the main straightaway, you'll open DRS and fly down towards turn 1. Building up to a speed of 210 perhaps miles an hour? Not quite, 209. Down to 4th gear into the first turn. Round turn 2, 3rd gear. Maybe a short shift after 4th. Nope, uses all of 3rd gear, exiting turn 3. You'll open DRS and head up towards turn 4. Hard on the brakes at the 100 meter board. Down to 4th gear, down to 3rd gear. As we head around turn 5. Up towards the hairpin of turn 6. It's important that you get a nice exit here so you can send it down this short straightaway into the high speed S's. The left-hander, turn 7, round turn 8, then the left of 9, up towards the right of turn 10, and then the tricky turn 11. Gets through that pretty tidily. DRS open, up towards turn 12. Hard on the brakes. Just hitting 199 miles an hour, heading into turn 12. Round turn 13, the slowest corner on the racetrack. Turns 14 and 15, and then the final 2 corners, turn 16 and turn 17. Captain Schmeg will set the benchmark of 1 minute 16.613. How will the other drivers respond? Well, Jay's invalidated his first attempt. JBH is heading into the stadium section as Luxury goes P2 with a 16.6. The stadium section was the biggest change from the original layout design to what it is today, as Rebel jumps to the top with a 15.9. JBH goes slowest of all with a 17.036. That stadium section was the biggest change. Formerly a baseball stadium, got paved over and it's now used as part of the racetrack. You can't really do much through there. It's my least favourite part about this entire racetrack. It's just a bottleneck section. You really can't pass through there. If you can, it's messy. You lose a lot of time. And it's not really that fun to go through, especially if you're not using traction control. You have to be very careful on the accelerator, particularly in wet conditions. It's just not that fun. Smokey, you see here, a lot of modulation, bit of full throttle, then you're back on the brakes for turn 16. And you have to be so careful coming out to turn 17, back onto the main straight. 18.1. Smokey goes P8. Black Baller making his way through the middle sector towards the high-speed S section. It's quite an outdated design as well, with what Codemasters have in the game. The section is significantly tighter in real life than what it is in game, and after all these years, Codemasters still haven't updated it. And I suppose they probably won't for a while. Through the stadium section, through turns 14 and 15, and around the final two curves, and back onto the main straight. Black Baller will set a 17.952, goes 8th fastest. Championship leader Axis heading up towards turn 6. Do like this little hairpin. It's a nice little hairpin. Fairly innocuous, but it's a solid corner to go through. It's an important corner, as I mentioned on the guided lap that we did with Captain Schmeg. It's important that you get the exit right so you can maximise the top speed heading into the high speed S's. Up towards turn 12. On the brakes hard, you can see him utilising the extra piece of runoff area on the outside of the racetrack, trying to open up turn 12 as much as he possibly can. He'll do the same, as you can see, heading into turn 16. Maybe used a bit too much of the inside curb there, perhaps. The car looked quite unsettled. He'll cross the line and go second fastest. He's done a 16.356. Currently 4.5 tenths off Rebel, who still has provisional pole position. Jay yet to set a lap time. He'll be hoping for another top 5 start. In order to pull that off at the moment, you need to set a mid-16. Nice and steady through the stadium section, just lining himself up, getting ready for the run. Down to third gear, back on the power. Switches on the battery just before the finish line. He'll open DRS and send it towards turn 1. Kind of peak speed will we see here. Already seeing 210, 212, 213 miles an hour. Ludicrous speeds heading into turn 1. Out of the opening chicane, sideways. Manages to catch it, but it was a less than optimal run through the opening chicane. Needs to try and keep it tidy for the rest of the lap. A couple of other cars on out laps. Oh, and an invalidation there coming out of turn 5. Running a bit too wide, I'm afraid, and that's all it takes. Be a few millimeters wide at corner exit. The game won't hesitate. Smokey, he's on an in-lap. JBH beginning a flyer, heading down towards turn 1. DRS open. He hasn't switched on batteries, so I'm guessing then he's not on a proper push lap. He's just trying to dump some fuel that he has in the car. Saucy. DRS open, battery switched on, building up to a speed of 212 miles an hour. Third gear, back on the power, keeping it in third. DRS open, up through the gears. Revving it out in 7th as we go into turn 4, third gear. Round turn 5. Up towards the hairpin. Nice and tidy at the exit there. Car looks good, it looks stable. Into the S's, 5th gear. Keeping it in 5th, modulating the throttle, not touching the brake. That's all throttle modulations. What you want to see through the S's there. Revving it out again, not bothering to use 8th gear. Engine revving out at 12,000 RPM. Coming out of the final 2 corners now, up towards the line. It's going to be a 1:16.681. 4th fastest, just behind his teammate, who was in P3. Just did a lap, it seems. 16.3. Blockman jumps to P2. 16.0. He's just behind his teammate, who is still in pit lane. JBH Flying lap out of turn 3. Car looked a bit squirrely, but it's pointing in the right direction. It's not heading towards the wall. That's the most important thing. But he is down in the first sector. Not terribly surprising. Oh, he used a fair chunk of the racetrack out of turn 5. He was lucky he didn't cop a invalidation for that. Through the S's. Around turn 8, turn 9. And up towards turns 10 and 11. Very tidy. Clock says he's down. Decent chunk too, down by 0.2 of a second. So less than optimal for JBH. Captain Schmeg, meanwhile, is up in the first sector of the racetrack. Making his way out of turn 6 and heading down towards the S's. 5th gear, 6th gear. Back down to 5th. Through 7, then 8, round the left of 9, towards the S of turns 10, then 11. Carrying a lot of speed, the car looking good. The clock doesn't reflect that. The answer is yes, he's up by 1/10.5. Into the stadium section now. Keeping the car within the white lines, but fully utilising the width of the racetrack. A wiggle though through 14 and 15, that would have cost him time. Cost him so much he decided to bail on the lap. Rebel informed me as well that it's set to be a dry race. We're not going to have any wet weather interference. RF1 Tom in the McLaren will open DRS and send it down towards turn 1. Seeing speeds of around 210 miles an hour. See what Tom hits. A bit lower it seems, 208 miles an hour. That's the slowest I've seen so far. Telling me that Tom is carrying some extra wing on that car, trying to extract some more downforce compared to his rivals. Typically when you've got a setup that produces more downforce, it's better for qualifying. You're able to extract more lap time during qualifying, but in the race you are leaving yourself vulnerable with that lack of top speed. When you've got that extra top speed, it's a lot easier to overtake. And Tom, he's currently buried in the middle of the pack in P7, so he needs to try and improve here. Maybe try and get it up into the top 4, top 5, somewhere around there. Currently up by 1/10, so he's actually lost time, if I'm not mistaken, in the middle sector to his PB. Needs to string together a very tidy final sector. It's looking pretty good. Around the penultimate turn, then the final corner. Up towards the line, it's going to be a 16.4. He found a whole chunk of time in that final sector. He goes 5th fastest with a 16.439. Svazquatch, I believe he's on an in-lap. Smokey, looks like he's on a flyer. Trying to get through the S's, nice and clean. Car looking pretty solid through there. Clock reflects that. He's up by 1/10. In order for him to improve position though, he needs to improve by about 6.5 tenths. JBH, the car directly in front of him on the leaderboard, has done a 17.0. Smokey, meanwhile, has done a 17.6. So perhaps the best he can hope for is a top 10 start. He did find a lot of time though in the final sector. He cuts his PB down to a 17.3, but he is still P10. Axis coming into pit lane. He's done a 16.0 himself. Only a few hundredths off Blockman. So it is tight towards the top of the table. JBH out on track. This fella, Little Mo, I believe he's a new full-time driver in the Ferrari. If I'm mistaken. If I am, please correct me. I'll be interested to see how he fares. Number 37. What's with the Ferraris as of late? The number on the front nose have been disappearing every so often. Don't know why. It does look nice though, nice and clean. Doesn't have the massive number with the... I don't know why, but I'm not a massive fan of the Ferrari font. It looks big. It looks, yeah, just a bit too big for my liking. Not quite as tidy as I would have imagine a Ferrari font should look like. Currently making his way out of turn 3. It's a tidy first sector so far, but does that equate to fast? The clock says he is up by a whole chunk. Yeah, that does equate to fast. He is 4/10 up, and with that improvement alone he can jump up towards P11, but he needs to find even more time throughout the rest of the lap to try and crack inside the top 10. Through turn 10, then 11. He's actually lost a little bit. Still up by a decent chunk overall. Now he just needs to get through the final sector. Nice and steady on the accelerator. He's looked really tidy on this lap. He hasn't put a foot wrong, really. Oh, I say that. He did there. Probably cost him time. Crosses the line to set a 17.951. P11 for the Ferrari driver. JBH getting ready. So is a lot of other drivers. Axis is on the main straight. Blockman's at turn 5. Rebel heading through the final sector. Well, Rebel hasn't improved on that 15.9. Reason is he hasn't. he doesn't need to improve at the moment. Occupying provisional pole position. Little margin in hand as well, a 10.5, but he is looking to try and improve on his lap time. Try pull further away from his teammate and from Axis as well. Down into turn 1. Through to then 3. Car looking good. 7th gear, up towards the first sector split. The clock says he's down by 0.07 of a second. 3rd gear, down to 2nd gear through turn 5. Up towards the hairpin, 3rd gear. Set it there pretty well. Up towards the S's now. Into the left of 7, 5th gear. Round 8, 6th gear, round 9. Up into 7. Turn 10, then turn 11. DRS open up towards the middle sector split. He's up by 0.009 of a second. Needs to try and string together this final sector. A bit squirrely. Just keeping it within the white lines. 2 corners left now for Rebel. 30 seconds left on the clock. This will be his final flying lap attempt. He will improve to set a 15.592. A huge improvement in the final sector. Axis beginning a lap. Blockman in the middle of the lap. Up towards the middle sector split. He is down. Needs to string together a very good final sector here. Around the turn 13 hairpin through 14 and 15. And around the final 2 corners. Up towards the line for Blockman. It's going to be a 15.833. He found time in the final sector. The way it's looking, it's going to be an Alpine 1-2. What can Axis do? Through turn 10. Then 11. Up towards the middle sector split. The clock says he's up by almost a 10.5. To try and take provisional pole, he needs to send it through here. Round turn 13. Through 14. 15. Then around turn 16. 3rd gear. Back on the power. Reaching full throttle. Round the final corner. Up towards the line. It's P3. Not by much though. By 0.03 of a second. Between himself and Blockman. Going to make his session is done. Smokey sideways up towards the line. And Smokey, he was actually up by a decent chunk, but then he threw away the lap right at the final corner. So there we go. Qualifying done. It's not provisional pole for Rebel. It is pole for Rebel. And a great time as well. 15.592. He's taken it by a little over 0.2 of a second. Almost 2.5 to his teammate. Another Alpine 1-2 for a start of a Grand Prix. Axis, our championship leader, in 3rd position. Luxury P4. Saucy, his teammate. And the other Red Bull P5. Not a bad little session, that one. Not much of a gap between the top two, just under 2.5 tenths, but astonishingly enough, it's actually one of the bigger gaps between pole and second that we've had all season. But no, Rebel takes it at the end of qualifying. His teammate Blockman in P2, Axis P3, followed by Luxury, Saucy, Schmeg, Tom, Jay, and JBH. Spazsquatch rounds out the top 10. So we have Black Baller, Smokey, Little Mo, Laquito. He'll be starting from the back in 14th place. There we are. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, got to get ready for the main event itself. A little reminder as well, we are set for a dry event. Are we going to see any clouds? Any overcast conditions? Well, it's slightly overcast at the moment, but there are a fair few pockets of blue sky that you can see, so the likelihood of rain arriving is quite low. Got to remember, we run with approximate weather, not with perfect weather. So even though the forecast might say it's going to be dry, chances are, if there are clouds, there's a decent chance of rain on the way. So I've always got to stay on your toes. I'll be curious to see what kind of strategies the drivers are going to try and go with in this race as well. As Pacific Tier 1 proved last night, seems that the optimal strategy is either medium hard or hard medium. A few other drivers tried soft medium, trying 2 stops, but they didn't quite work as well. So yeah, hard medium or medium hard seems to be the way to go, which is a shame because strategy used to play a huge part in these races here in Mexico. Is it just me, or do you really hate how synchronized all the virtual spectators are? Look at them. They're all doing the same animations. Ugh. Like, you don't notice it when you're flying through, but still. When you see it, you can't unsee it. Alright, we shouldn't be too far away now from the race start. Drivers just making final small adjustments to their cars. Small adjustments to the strategies they want to go with. Shortly get underway, hopefully. Alright, here we go then. 5 red lights. We are underway here in Mexico, and a jump start for Spazsquatch. He's got a drive-through penalty. You'll have to serve that in a few laps' time. But it's Rebel who leads. Axis P2. Luxury has jumped up to 3rd. He's trying to go around the outside of Axis, and he's gotten in front, heading into contact between the 2 Alpines. I think they sent each other round. To the back of the field goes Rebel. Oh, and contact between Blockman and Tom as well. Sending Tom around down to P12. Oh, can you believe it? A 1-2 for Alpine has been completely thrown out the window. I do think it was Blockman. I'm almost certain he hit Rebel at turn 1. Around is a Ferrari. It's Little Mo at turn 5. Blockman slowing down. letting Black Baller through. Now JBH is arriving on the scene. The order's all shuffled. It's Luxury who leads, and he's got Axis directly behind. Saucy in P3, Blockman P4. Black Baller, JB Hayes, Spazsquatch with the jump start. You'll have to serve that drive-through penalty. And there's Rebel in the Alpine, down in 9th, now 8th place. From pole position, he led a grand total of what? About 800, 900 meters? Now, I think there was contact between him and his teammate. I don't think he spun by himself. And into the pits goes a lot of people. Spazsquatch serving the drive-through. Jay, Smokey, Little Mo. A lot of damage on the first lap. Can you believe it? What was an Alpine 1-2? They're now down in 4th and 7th. There's the tyre situation. A lot of drivers starting on mediums and hards. Our front Tom on the soft compound tyre, and he got spun at turn 3 by Blockman. That's seriously less than ideal for the McLaren driver. This is it, the battle at the front. You wouldn't have thought it, but it's Luxury and Axis leading the way. Saucy in P3, Blockman P4. JBH rounding out the top 5. Now lap 3 of 36, DRS is now enabled. Won't be able to use it straight away. They'll have to wait until they get to turn 11 until they start using DRS. Rebel setting fastest laps. He's pushing as hard as he can to try and get back up towards the front. Tom gets by Laquito, who's now in 9th place. Black Baller hanging on to this track position he's got. Straight line speed that he has, keeping Rebel at bay. Alpine in the slipstream. Can't go for the pass, he's not close enough. Now the second gear. Back on the power. Yeah, Rebel, he'd be frustrated. He'd be very, very frustrated. Blockman as well. Now behind Saucy, has to try and find a way through. Axis. He'd be able to go for the lead on the next lap at the beginning of lap 4. And I imagine these two are going to go back and forth for the race lead for some time until the pit stop period begins. Back onto the main straight. 3/10 separating the top two. Axis will open DRS. Close the gap up. Try and go for the lead. Although Luxury is keeping him at bay. So Luxury hanging on to the lead for now. Blockman moves up to P3. Turn on the telemetry, say, we 44% compared to Axis with 82. Sort of tells you the story, doesn't it? Luxury having to use a fair chunk more battery to try and stay in front. Axis holding his own in P2. Looking good. Blockman, he's got a bit of work to do to try and catch up. And he won't have any DRS to help him out either. 3 seconds is the gap. He's put the hammer down. Keep his head screwed on. Close the gap. A lot easier said than done. Rebel behind Black Baller. Can't find a way through heading into turn 12. He has a look, but he's not close enough. He doesn't have enough momentum to try and slingshot by. Oh, Black Baller going very narrow. He managed to pull it up quite well at the apex, and it means that Rebel can't find a way through. Onto the main straight. Two cars will open DRS and head towards turn 1. Axis closing the gap. He's now directly behind Luxury as we go through the opening chicane complex. Up towards turn 4. Small look. Doesn't commit to a move. Not yet. Rebel well and truly stuck right now. He is still in P7 and he can't find a way through. The two Mercedes cars working together quite well. Rebel, I thought he was going to send it in there, but he elects not to. Stays behind the Merc. Axis, Luxury. 3/10 separating the cars. We're heading up towards the final two corners. Luxury, I imagine, is going to lose the lead here. He uses battery. Not really sure why. That DRS is going to surely send Axis through. No. Tell you what, Axis, you are lacking some straight line speed, my friend. Oh, almost goes into the back of Luxury at turn 1. And finally, Rebel finds a way through. He moves into P6. Yeah, Axis does not have a hell of a lot of straight line speed in this car. That may prove to be a huge problem for Axis, especially when it comes to clutch time at the end of the race. If he needs to try and make a pass on the car in front, it's going to be very tough to do with the lack of straight line speed. Got a lot of downforce. Look at that, even with DRS open, he is even. Just about even with Luxury. Nothing more. Bit of lag there, but that's okay. Bit of sliding there from Axis. DRS open, heading down towards turn 1. He is properly buried in that slipstream. Looks to the inside, needs to be committed. Contact between the two cars. Axis gets it straightened out, but Luxury hangs on to the lead. JBH Rebel down the inside, heading around turn 2. Rebel sending it round, and he takes P5. JBH just a bit too slow at the apex there at turn 2. Allowed Rebel to go right round the outside of him. So Rebel up to 5th, and this is his opportunity to try and pull away from the two Mercs. Needs to try and string together a very competitive middle sector. Yep, sits at 4/10. Needs to build it up to about 7-8 to make sure JBH won't be able to slingshot by into turn 1. Look at that gap increase, 6.5, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, 9.5, almost a second. So, yeah, Rebel through the corners, looking very, very quick indeed. Take 2. Luxury, Axis, 3.5 separating the two. Luxury moving about on the straight just to try and break the toe. Blockman, he's been steadily closing the gap, now 2.8 seconds behind. Bit of a wiggle there as we head up towards turn 4. Has a look, sends it in, gets around the outside, now down the inside at turn 5, forces the Red Bull wide and takes the lead. Down towards the S's now. Axis will be looking to break away. Gap is half a second. Now 6/10, 6.5, 7/10, 7.5, 8/10, 8.5. Pulled away tremendously through that section, but not by a big enough margin. 8/10 is the gap, 9/10. Luxury should get some DRS assistance. Yellow flags are out. That was Liquito, I think, having a moment. 1.1 seconds is the gap, but he will get DRS, and he's going to close that gap significantly. 9 tenths, 8.5, 8 tenths, 7.5, 7 tenths, 6.5. Oh my word, the speed difference is massive down the main straight. But now finally Axis has track position. He needs to drive pretty spot on to try and make this work. Basically needs to send it every time he goes through the middle sector. Can't afford to make a mistake, otherwise Luxury will have every opportunity to try and take the lead back. And there is Blockman, just 2.5 seconds behind. JBH, Black Baller, half a second separating these two. The rest of the field is pretty well spread out. We do have Smokey and Captain Schmeg battling away. Captain Schmeg not getting it done. DRS open again. Round the outside. Smokey. Oh, Captain Schmeg, you're leaving him room. He was nowhere near you. He didn't need to give room. You could have shut down at the apex, and now Smokey's having a look down the inside at turn 6. Sort of prolonging a battle that could have been sorted at least 2 corners ago. He was just leaving fresh air open for Smokey for really no reason. But then again, the arrows that the game gives you for where the cars are, where your rivals are, they're not very good. They're not very good at all. They often pop up red even though the car behind is nowhere near you. And some nice little battles here and there. Blockman back down to P4. Those medium tyres, yeah, this is about the right time. They're steadily losing their edge, and those hard tyres, they're switching on. They're going to be fast. They're going to be very fast, and Saucy's taking complete advantage of that. He is 2 seconds behind his teammate, trying to cut down that gap as best he can as we head through the stadium section. Round the penultimate turn, round the final corner, and back onto the main straight. Captain Schmeg, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Rebel, 5.8 seconds behind. A lot of catching up to do. Half a second separating these two as they head towards turn 1. Black Baller cutting down that gap, but just not by enough. Try and find a way through his teammates. 8 tenths separating the top 2. Gap increasing through the middle sector, as you'd expect. Luxury with that extra top end speed that he has. Whoa, is able to cut down that gap. A big slide, it's cost him a tenth or so. Saucy now 1.6 behind him. Blockman is directly behind him. Going to be an interesting strategic battle we're going to witness here between the top 4 cars. Who's going to go for the undercut? Will there be someone who attempts an overcut? It's entirely possible. Try and stretch the mediums out to about 20 laps or so. Going to be a fascinating and dynamic little battle between the top 4. Meanwhile, got Black Baller and RF1 Tom separated by 2.5 tenths. Tom going along on these softs. Guy overtake switched on. DRS switched on. Buried in the slipstream of the Silver Arrows. JBH, he's going to get on. He's under attack here from his own teammate and Tom, who goes around the outside of Black Baller, now down the inside. Can he get in front? He's forced a bit wide. Black Baller with a small mistake allows Tom through. Moves up into P7. Black Baller fighting back down the inside at turn 4. Tom gives room. He head around turn 5. Tries to go round the outside, running so wide in fact. He's off the racetrack. Black Baller We'll slot in behind Tom. Move down to P8. Here's Saucy and Blockman. Currently just working together right now. Saucy's got pretty decent pace and he's been cutting down that gap to Luxury. Down the main straightaway towards turn 1. Blockman with DRS open. Will he go for the move? No. See there on the telemetry, you could hear it as well. Big old lift there as Rebel pits in for a set of hard tyres. So he's pitting early, trying to go for the undercut, try and gain time on the top 4 after they make their pit stops. It's a smart decision considering the position he's in. But he is going to have fairly worn tyres towards the end of the Grand Prix. Behind Spaz Squatch as well, so he's got a little bit of traffic to try and negotiate. But considering the freshness of these tyres and how much grip they should give him, he should find a way through pretty easily and pretty quickly too. His second, third and fourth making their way out to the S's. Heading up towards turn 12. And up 13 of 36. Still got a long way to go in this race. Not quite at the halfway mark. We head around the final 2 corners. Bit of a wiggle there from the Alpine as we head on to the main straight. Down towards turn 1. Blockman looking down the inside. Gets in front and moves into P3. Tom's pitting in. He's done 13 laps on those softs. What's he going to do? Mediums or hards? Hard tyre. Well, he should be able to get to the end of the race on those. Where will he come out? Behind Laquita. He should have a bit of clear air to play with. Change of position between the 2 Mercs. Black Baller now in front of JBH. I'm guessing JBH made a mistake somewhere. Or he deliberately let Black Baller through. Heading into turn 12. Saucy is in the apex. He's now starting to lose the edge on those halves. The gap certainly increased between himself and his teammate. Speaking of which, he's in pit lane. And he comes on a set of hard tyres. He should come out in front of the 2 Mercedes. They're making their way around the final corner now. This is critical. He needs to have clear air. And he should have it. Rebel sets a new fastest lap as he closes in on those 2 Mercs. JBH gets back by, moves into 5th. Rebel constantly closing the gap on those fresher, hard compound tyres. Blockman 3/10 behind Saucy. Spaz Squatch in pit lane. Moving on to a set of softs. He's had a fairly disjointed race after what happened at the beginning, getting a drive-through penalty for jumping the start. So he's looking to make the best of a pretty awkward situation as he gets passed by Jay. .8 seconds the gap between Saucy and Axis. Blockman directly behind. Still cannot find a way through. Axis coming in. Saucy now moves into the provisional race lead. Only provisional, we'll have to wait until the pit stop cycle ends, see where everyone comes out. Blockman, will he find a way through? Will he go for it? Will he let Saucy just keep doing what he's doing? Jay with a 3-second time penalty. Straight line drag race between JBH and Rebel. Down the inside goes the Alpine, moves through into 5th position. As Laquito has left the session, hopefully he can rejoin as soon as possible. Through the S's. 3.5 tenths, Blockman looking solid. A lot of battery in hand. And Saucy doing pretty good as well with the battery. 48%. He hasn't used it too much too soon. Giving himself enough in hand just in case if he needs it. Into the pits goes Blockman. So he's done with those tyres. Coming in for a set of hards. Way leaves. Luxury's making his way onto the main straight. Axis following suit. There they are. Getting down towards turn 1. Rebel will come out in front of his teammate too. So that undercut has worked well enough to get him in front of his teammate, and that will mean he'll get in front of Saucy as well. Still 3.8 seconds behind Axis and Luxury, who will be set to take the lead after his teammate Saucy pits. Out of turn 9, Captain Schmega, 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pits. He elects to retire from the session. That's surprising, considering that with the attendance today, it means that anyone who finishes scores points. So, yeah, Schmegi's had enough for the day. Onto the main straight. Saucy still yet to pit. It's now lap 18 of 36. Now at that halfway mark. 50% of the race to go. Luxury building a margin to Axis. Gap of 1.1 seconds. Spaz Squatch getting by Laquito. For Axis, it's going to be a tough task to try and pass that Red Bull. He's going to gain a significant amount of time in the middle sector, but you can't pass through the middle sector. He's got to gain that time, line up a run, and try and make a move. That undercut from Luxury is exactly what he needed to do to get the track position back. Axis, yeah, caught out by the strategy, has got a lot of work to do. It doesn't seem like much, it's only 1.5 seconds, but you consider the strengths and weaknesses of the two cars in this battle. Luxury, with the track position and with the top speed he's got, means he's going to be seriously tough to pass. He's low on battery though, 11%. I saw that flashing red light. So, that is one thing Axis has in his favour, is significantly more battery, sitting at a comfortable 73% at the moment. We get some DRS assistance as well as JBH. Oh no, he won't. He wasn't within range at the DRS detection zone. I thought he was. But yes, JBH now has a 3-second time penalty next to his name. Gap sits at 1.2 seconds as Laquito finds his way back in. Smokey gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Axis is overcoming that gap quite well. It's shrunk now to 1.2. It'll shrink even more through the middle sector, but I do reiterate, it's going to be tough. Needs to get by in an optimal spot. Definitely before turn 5. He needs to get it done before then. Get in front into the S's and try and pull away as best he can. Laquito is back behind the wheel of his car. You can tell from the little flash with the leaderboard. When that leaderboard flashes, it means a driver has re-entered their car. Much needed DRS assistance. It won't gain him a lot of time on this straight, but it will keep him within a relatively closer distance compared to when he doesn't have DRS. Out of turn 3. Up through the gears. And there's Rebel sitting in P4. Looking comfortable, but his teammate is closing and he is on better tyres. I imagine when Blockman gets in behind him in a few laps time, Rebel will probably let him through. Through the S's. Turn 10, turn 11. Up to turn 12. Through the stadium section. Axis cutting down the gap. Won't be close enough though to find a way through. Not yet. The race leader's in. Set of mediums at the ready. Away he leaves. Come out behind both Alpines. He should come out in front of JBH though. It's a long, slow crawl through the pit lane. You'll have a lot of clear track to try and set some really fast lap times. But he's got an almighty amount of work to do to try and catch up to Blockman. 9.5 seconds the margin. Needs to be a second a lap faster for a number of laps. Try and cut that margin down and give himself a chance to try and fight for a potential podium finish. Through the S's, the gap sits at 3.5 tenths. Axis staying behind, 4 tenths behind. Gap increases a little bit. Still hovering at around half a second or so. Plus or minus a tenth. DRS open. Look at that. 199 miles an hour. Damn near equal. That's how much wing Axis has got on that car. Carrying so much wing. Battle on for P6 on track. Tom will get by. Or maybe not. That top speed of the Mercedes is quite noticeable. He'll send it, surely. No, he doesn't. The Quito 3-second time penalty. I thought Tom was going to be a bit more aggressive on the brakes. Try and get by the Mercedes, but no. He was about to equal with the Merc. Stays in P7. Rebel. Blockman just behind. Saucy cutting down the gap. Now 9 seconds. He needs to keep working on it. Needs to try, if he can, it's difficult to do when you're pushing, to not overdrive on the tyre and wear it out too much. You need to be trying to be smooth and consistent if you can. Gap sitting at 6 tenths. Big old lift there, you could hear it, huge lift into turn 1. This is good. 0.4, 1.2. Might be something to keep an eye on as the fuel. Look at that lifting, huge lift and coast. Huge lift and coast. Is he trying to recharge battery or is he trying to save fuel? I think with that you're trying to save fuel, aren't you? So does Axis have a fuel problem? Perhaps. Maybe he's using too much too soon. Dispatch watch now on medium compound tyres. He'll come out in clear air. be able to push. Something I'll have to keep an eye on then is the fuel situation with Axis. He is right on the gearbox now of Luxury, and a couple of others are joining the party, and it's the two Alpines. I'll tell you what, if Alpine managed to fish out a 1-2 result here in Mexico after the drama on the opening lap, it would be one hell of a recovery, because honestly, you would have thought their race has gone completely out the window after what happened there. Right now, they're in touching distance, and they are closing the gap. You'd say out of the two, Blockman is best positioned here to try and attack. Not close enough to get by his teammate, but when he does get by, he'll have his eyes firmly set on both Luxury and Axis. And I think maybe at this stage, will it be better for Axis to try and just take the lead and bolt off? Again, with that fuel situation, is he burning fuel? No, he's actually saving it. So, I don't think the fuel situation is that bad. Look at him, saving up that battery. Whoa. Big mistake though at turn 12. Cost him about 2/10 there. Oh, don't worry, Luxury compensated by missing the apex at 13, I guess. Tit for tat. JBH 3-second time penalty. A full charge now in that AlphaTauri. He still ain't using it. What's Axis thinking about? Blockman is now in P3. He's got his sights glued at the rear end of that AlphaTauri. Up towards turn 4. Luxury hanging on. Well, Blockman's charge. He's got 33%, which is enough. It's what you want to have. Just a little bit. Use that at the right time, at the right moment. Make sure you can either hang on to track position or gain necessary track position. Gotta say, Axis is looking great. That battery life. Looking like he's in control. Through the stadium section. Will he finally pounce on Luxury? Or is he going to stay behind for another lap? Well, that tells me something. He switches on the overtake. He's going to go for it. Will Luxury respond? He switches on the battery too. Covers the inside line. Axis looking around the long way. He needs to send it in. Luxury keeping the fight alive through turn 1. Through turn 2. Axis getting in front. He moves through. Can Luxury fight back? He buries himself in the slipstream. Uses up a bit of battery. 2/10. 1.5. Surely he goes. He doesn't. He doesn't go for the move. He slides through turn 4. I really thought he was going to send it down the inside there. He lets Axis keep the position. And watch Axis pull away off into the distance. That's exactly what he needed. The race leader. Look at him pull away. Off he pops. Jay pitting in. 24 laps he's done on those tyres. Gee whiz. Guessing he'll move on to a set of softs and go to the end. Oh no, set of mediums. Well, at least he won't have to worry about tyre wear, that's for certain. That gap, 1.5 seconds. Axis is disappearing off into the distance. I really thought Luxury was going to send it back through. Just knowing how fast Axis was through the middle sector. I was fully expecting a send, but no, he didn't go for it. Now he's lost another position to Blockman and might lose a third position to Rebel. We'll wait and see. He's close, he's looking. Doesn't go for it. Alright, the top two in the Drivers' Championship are now first and second in this race. Blockman with all the work to do. He's got only slightly fresher tyres. Bit less battery compared to Axis now. But as we've seen, all race, Axis through the middle sector has been mega. The thing is, doesn't matter how good you are, if you're slow on a straightaway, there's nothing you can do about it. Gap sits at 1.4 seconds. Blockman needs to be perfect to try and catch up to Axis. Axis cannot make a mistake. Otherwise it will open up an opportunity to his main championship rival to try and win this race. Luxury moves down to 4th position now. Oh, he tries to fight back around the outside, and to his credit, he gets it done. Rebel not fully sending it down the inside, leaving the outside line open to Luxury. Luxury said, "Thank you very much, I'll take that," and he stays in 3rd. 1.4 seconds, 1.3, 1.4, 1.3. The gap's fluctuating. Blockman needs to get within a second of Axis. Axis can't let that happen. These two are going to be pushing hard. Trying to make sure they can try and win this race. Yellow's out. Laquito's retired. He's crashed at pit lane entry. There he is there. He's absolutely smashed the barrier. And astonishingly, even though his car was in the middle of the track, there was no safety car for that. Luxury gets demoted down. Oh, not yet. He's fighting back against the Alpine. Down towards turn 1. Rebel sending it a little bit deeper. The Luxury with the inside line at turn 2. Hangs on to P3. The DRS open again. Spending up that battery. Look at Luxury. Whoa, look at Saucy. Saucy moves through into 3rd. He had some serious straight line speed. Luxury and Rebel made contact on the main straight. Saucy up to 3rd. He's done the hard work on those mediums. He's made them count. And he's on the podium. Challenging for a race win. Bit of a tall order. But he can definitely hang on to that 3rd place. Rebel will do everything he can to try and finish on the podium. That doesn't help. Bit wide. Bit wide again. Just a little bit. Luxury pitting in. Set of softs at the ready. He's got a big enough gap back to R1 Tom that he can afford to do this. Saucy, Rebel, Yellow. What's going on up here? It's a Ferrari. It's Little Mo. Rebel behind Saucy. Saucy dumping the battery. Rebel closing the gap. Ascend? No. Not this lap. Not this time. Blockman has cut down the gap. 1.1. It will grow through the middle sector. Still hovering. About 1.1. 1.2. Almost 1.3. Axis desperately needs to keep Blockman out of DRS range for as long as he can. I'll quickly have a look at his wheel. Okay, 0.15. He might actually be in a lot of trouble when it comes to the fuel. He might need Blockman to catch up so he can get some DRS assistance. Because he actually has used a lot of fuel. So So he did have a fuel issue, a big one. Is he lifting? No, straight on the brakes as Rebel moves through. Saucy will send it around the outside at 1. Give himself the inside line at 2. Wheel-to-wheel contact as they go through turn 3. DRS open. Saucy in the slipstream. Saucy closing. Having a look. Not committing. Parking the bus there from Rebel, making sure that Saucy can't get a run out of turn 4. So both Alpines on the podium. We'll have a look at the fuel situation here. 0.6. That's it, 0.6. He's looking alright, but Axis 0.05. He is running low. Axis has got a huge fuel problem. And with that incident with the Quita, he probably desperately wanted a safety car to try and get that fuel back. That lifting and coasting, that was indeed for fuel. He needed that fuel as Smokey speeds into the pit lane. 5 laps to go here in Mexico City. Big lift, huge lift into turn 1. Desperately trying to manage the fuel problem he's got. Trying to stay in the positive as Luxury sets a new fastest lap. Big lift again, on the brakes hard. Oh man, he's looking good for a race win here. And if Axis is not careful, he might fall into the clutches of these two. It might be an Alpine 1-2 after all that drama. Axis has driven superbly. A mistake though, there at turn 11. The car kicked out sideways at 10. Dude had to straighten it out big time. Cut the track, he would have got a warning for it. Blockman now has an opportunity here to take the race lead. Here we go, 4 laps to go. DRS open. Closing the gap, cutting it down. 8.5, 8/10, 7.5, 7/10, 6.5, 6/10, 3.5. Heading into turn 1. Round turn 2. Saucy, Rebel, sideways there for Rebel. Saucy hangs on to 3rd. So these two are set to go back and forth as Axis gets past down the inside. Blockman takes the lead with 4 to go. Can Axis do anything, or is he going to go into fuel management mode? Is he saying, mate, I might as well accept 2nd. I can't fight Blockman with the fuel situation I've got. I need to save fuel and hang on to P2 for the sake of the championship. Or is he not thinking that at all and thinking, I can try and battle him if I can. Try and manage the fuel, keep myself in the fight. What is he going to do? Saucy 4 seconds behind. That will be an important margin to keep an eye on. The gap between P2 and 3. It's the start of lap 34. 3 laps to go. DRS open. He's still in the positive. We're going to see a huge lift here. Ready? Big lift for about 50 meters. Rebel close. Not quite close enough. Still not quite close enough. Another big lift. Axis having a look down the inside. I don't think he was doing that intentionally. I think he was just trying to avoid hitting Blockman there. He was actually quite good on the brakes. Got slightly underneath Blockman. Cut the track a bit to make sure there wasn't contact. Now with the downforce he's got, he'll be able to manage the time loss pretty well through here. And as you can see, the gap is actually shrinking a little bit. But down the straights, we're going to see a huge lift and coast. Off, then on the brakes. Big lift. Just saving those little bits of fuel for the sake of the final lap, making sure he has fuel for that final lap. Will he send it or will he settle? That is the question. Honestly, I have no idea. All dependent on how good he can save that fuel. Blockman, he's got a bit of battery in hand. He'll save that for the final lap. Axis probably doing the same. Saucy. Black Baller and JBH change places. I'm guessing JBH might have made a mistake as Black Baller lets him back through. Interesting little exchange there. 4/10 the margin. Down towards the S's. 5th gear. Slide lifting. You can see Axis because he looks way more threatening through those S's. He's got 0.1 in reserve. 0.1. He's managed the fuel well. Is that going to be enough? Will he send it? He is so close to Blockman. Blockman's got battery in reserve. He's got 30%. Around the penultimate turn. Around the final corner. Oh, and a slide there from Axis as he turns on the battery. He couldn't afford that. He dumps whatever battery he's got left. There's the fuel icon. He's low on fuel. Does he have enough to finish this race? Rebel moves through into 3rd. Saucy trying to fight round the outside at the first turn. Looks down the inside at 2. Rebel puts up a fight at 3. Running wide as the Red Bull. He's sideways. He hits Rebel into the wall at the exit of 3. And Rebel destroys his front wing. Luxury will now close in at a serious rate of knots. Rebel might not finish 4th. Saucy. A huge incident there at turn 3. Meanwhile, we're having the battle at the front of the field. Blockman's hanging on. He's got a bit of battery left. Axis needs to send it. He's got the battery switched on. DRS open. Looking round the outside at 12. He gets in front of Blockman. Blockman forces him wide. The two make contact as they go through the stadium section for the final time side by side. Making contact and Blockman loses grip. He goes to P2. Axis round the final corner. Wins the Mexican Grand Prix in spectacular style. Blockman P2 and Saucy backing off. It looks like he wants to give back the position to Rebel. Will he hang on to P4? P3? Yes, he shall. There you go. Rebel will finish on the podium. Saucy, in response to what happened at turn 2, damn near came to a stop at the final corner. Let Rebel and his teammate through. He will finish P5. Oh, but can you believe that? Axis just had enough fuel, just, to win this race. The two battled incredibly well through that final sector. Doing the best they could through a sector you just can't battle side by side through. For Blockman, it was an unfortunate little bit of contact that unsettled his Alpine, so much so he had to slam on the brakes and straighten the thing up. From that, Axis wins this Grand Prix. Rebel given driver of the day. Fair enough after what happened on the opening lap. It's now time for the podium celebrations. A brilliant drive from our top two today, but only one can win, and it's Axis who's victorious here in Mexico City. He'll extend his championship lead. Blockman home in P2, and Rebel recovers to 3rd. A 2-3 finish for Alpine, extending their lead in the Constructors. The unofficial results then of the Mexican Grand Prix. Axis is your race winner with Blockman home in P2, 2 seconds separating the two drivers at the end of the race. Rebel will finish in 3rd place, even after the incident he had with Saucy at turn 3, which almost ended his race. Luxury home in 4th with fastest lap. Saucy slowing down to let Rebel back through, will end up finishing 5th. Tom 6th, followed by JBH and Black Baller. Spad Squatch finishes inside the 10. Jay rounds out the top 10 places for Williams. Little Mo P11, followed by Smokey. Liquito and Captain Schmeg both retired during this Grand Prix. We started with 14, we ended with 12, and we had 2 very entertaining battles right at the end of that race. It's ultimately Axis who comes out victorious. Well. There were no safety cars during that entire event. That was a race of pure pace and pure strategy, and it turned out to be a very interesting one right at the end. What a battle that turned out to be. A final congratulations to our top 3 finishers, and congrats to Axis on winning this Grand Prix. Man, that was a hell of a finale right at the end of that race. Oof. I didn't expect it to get that tight, but it did, and it was very good to watch. I think, folks, with everything said and done, it's now time for us to end the stream. I've been Lane Everingham. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and we won't see you next week. Next week we'll have a break for the Tuesday tiers, so instead we'll see you in a fortnight's time for round 11 of the championship at Autódromo José Carlos Pache, better known as Interlagos, for the Brazilian Grand Prix. That is set to be a hell of a lot of fun. Until then, it's goodbye.